Hey guys, it's your favorite Dinobot here, and I actually wanted to try this out for once. It's something that I guess I'm experimenting with, multiple ecology videos in one thing, right? So today I wanted to see if the mutations from Godzilla the series can survive in Monster Hunter. The mutations we'll be using are King Cobra, Cryptocledius, and we'll be using both of the Cryptoclediuses, by the way, so the male and female. Ketz-Ko-Tal, who will be given her offspring, and C-Rex. Now, the reason why we're going to be doing it like this is because I kind of want to see how y'all will react if I did multiple creature, survival videos. And considering it's just like similar to my multi-character things, these creatures are going to be in different environments. Now, environment suitability is really not needed because these creatures can exist even outside of their natural biomes. Yes, even the Cryptocledius can exist outside of the water and live on islands if it wanted to, like solidly on land, to be honest. So we'll be focusing on the competition, the food and prey availability, or their hunting methods as well, and we'll also be focusing on another thing, that being supremacy. Now, these things are actually going to be pretty important, as most of these monsters do scale to Zilla Jr. during these earlier years, right? So this means that they wouldn't really get to the multi-continental to even planetary levels of its attack potency, as Zilla Jr. was able to survive a exploding island, and they were able to damage him from that point. And even C-Rex does scale to this, as he would scale relative to King Cobra, who's able to fight a Zilla, post that. Now, as for the size of these monsters, we are going to be dropping them down to the same size as some of these regular monsters, and, well, regular in terms of Monster Hunter sense, excuse me. So they'll be around the same size as things like Najarala, Gammoth, and so on and so forth. Now, let me go over the scoreboard, and this will be kind of like the best out of 10 type situations. Most of the things I am going to count for food and prey is pretty much just if they can take it on without injury. Competition obviously is going to be the same thing like in any other Monster Hunter video. And then supremacy, which is can they dominate the entire environment even with Elder Dragon level monsters, or super predators, if you will. We will be cutting out Elder Dragons and the hunters and guilds, so they'll just say they don't, they're not in this environment and they just don't exist, because again, that will cause some, I guess you say, some difficulty with the creatures obviously surviving, considering the fact that if a hunter thinks that they're attacking the village, or if the guild sees them as a threat, then obviously their hunting or their survival rate would drop down drastically, as again, the best way they can only avoid the hunter is literally just getting out the area, and we know that the hunters are very persistent. You guys know good and well we are trying to get those boots no matter what. And so supremacy will focus on if they can even topple things like super predators. Now, if you guys are curious and do want to know what I am going to do with other creatures from this series, I will be doing a Zilla Jr. one where he and Komodo Thrax will be surviving together in I'll probably pick a much more difficult environment, maybe the Guiding Lands, if you will, or maybe I'll just probably do them by themselves, but at the end of the day, it's not really going to matter. And then I will also be doing one for Nessie and her child individually. This one would actually be interesting because Nessie is probably one of the few I really don't have to change size for, as again, she could easily fit in the Monster Hunter Ocean, and considering the sheer fact she fit in the Loch Ness somehow for multiple years, I'm not even sure what she ate, but it is what it is. So at the end of the day here, we will be using all four of these monsters, counting these three things, and be using them in vastly different environments. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please comment down below, like and subscribe, and share it with your friends. And without further ado, let us begin. So the first one we're going to talk about here is King Cobra. Me personally, this is one of my favorites. Now, King Cobra is actually pretty interesting, especially when it comes to his hacks and abilities. Now, like most of the creatures, he can definitely tunnel and burrow with absolute ease. He was able to tunnel through rock, concrete, and he's actually very strong with like his constrictions. Not only was he able to constrain Zilla Jr. for a while, he's also able to constrain the Mecha Yeti and even crush it, and that thing was made out of titanium. Like, just Look at what he's doing to it. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then he's also able to shoot this venomous glob of, well, bioglue, which is capable of not only sticking like smaller prey animals to a surface to where he can just come back and eat them later. And there's also the fact that he can use it to blind opponents. Now, with that being said, he's also very well adept at combat, even being able to take advantage of a large majority of the creatures when in a blind state. So yeah, now we're gonna put this guy in the Great Forest. Yes, I know, one of the interesting places when it comes to even Monster Hunter Frontier. It's actually pretty interesting and is one of my few favorite places, well, especially back in the old games. But this place actually provides a lot of things that could easily help King Cobra survive. Dense jungles, easily a lot of water, and a stable, in all honesty, a stable food supply. Believe it or not, he can definitely get away with a lot of things here. And if he wants to, he can also adapt what most cobras do, and that is going into the water to, well, you know, hunt and eat things like fish, and maybe even utilize it to ambush prey. You never know. You never know what you might need to. But now let's talk about the prey items. First things first, Aptonoth. Obviously, right? I mean, let's be real. Aptonoth is kind of like the bread and butter of every monster in Monster Hunter. And fun fact, they're actually in wilds. I never took the time to really realize that, you know, we bring Aptonoth over, and they're not even native to the region. Probably. You never know. Next up is Bullfango. Obviously, everyone's going to have their daily dose of bacon, so there's really no problem with King Cobra simply getting that. The next off, we have Conga. Now, the Conga here, believe it or not, do not follow a standard Conga Lala. Now, the ones they do follow are Emerald Conga Lala. And believe it or not, there can actually be more than one Conga Lala in the group. Now, Conga Lalas are not that very difficult for a lot of prey animals, or a lot of predators, excuse me, to really get a hold of. They actually do get hunted down very frequently. Now again, I do have to make the whole ape killer videos, or like beings that pretty much prey upon fanged beasts on multiple occasions. But yeah, King Cobra is definitely going to be one of the few ape killers in this region. And next off, we have Daimo Hermiter. Yeah, these guys are just food. Yeah, they're just like popcorn, but who doesn't love seafood, right? Then you have the Genprey and Velociprey, or Velocidromes as well. And then you also have the Ioprey here as well. And Iodrome is apparently not here in this region, meaning that it does not have a chance to really grow. Another creature is the Farukuku, or Farukuko, which is another subspecies, or a subspecies member of the whatchamacallit, the Hypnocatrice as well. Oh, sorry, not yes, the Hypnocatrice, excuse me. But these guys are really just interesting prey items, I definitely could say. They're able to secrete a powerful electrical blast and, well, put up a very, very decent fight. However, I do see King Cobra just kind of like tanking this with absolute ease, and then just kind of constricting around it to just either crush it, or utilizing its bioglue to hold it down, and then proceed to just bite it at the neck with its very sharp teeth and just crush it. I mean, this thing was biting through and crushing titanium with enough force. With titanium that was probably, you know, at the same size as its actual kaiju self. So even if we reduce the size, that's not going to reduce its power. And then we obviously have Hypnocatrice. Now, Hypnocatrice is actually a very smart creature, and I do think it would definitely avoid the likes of King Cobra, even avoiding its territory just like altogether. But again, there are moments where Hypnocatrice could definitely be on the menu. It is a scavenging creature that will, you know, prey upon the kills, or at least try to steal some of the meat from the kills of things like Nargacuja, Espinaz, and even some of the rest of the competitors that we're going to be putting on this list. However, Hypnocatrice could definitely find itself on the menu if King Cobra is not feeling largely too picky today, or feels like, you know what, today I'm just going to get myself a Hypnocatrice. So why don't I just go ahead and use my bioglue to hold you down and just proceed to devour you entirely. Now, believe it or not, King Cobra's hunting method is really going to be simple. It's likely going to be an ambush predator, likely utilizing the water around its territory to even set up traps and prey, but also utilizing the bioglue to hold its prey down while delivering a crushing bite, or if it's able to do so, get a constrictor mode on its prey as well, and even maybe some competition as well would turn into prey. But speaking of which, let's actually talk about the competition. Now, we're going to do this from least threatening to most threatening. So let's begin. Starting off with Rathian, they normally don't really get into skirmishes with large monsters unless they have to. Rathian would pretty much keep to herself a large majority of the time unless it comes to prey. Now again, Rathian is one of the few ape killers out there and will actively hunt down the Congalala and even the Emerald Congalala as well. So it's very possible this can only be a competition only for prey and not really territory. As Rathian, while I do think they may share the dense jungles, they may actually keep their distance from each other and may roar to acknowledge their presence in, if the other isn't aware of them at the moment. So pretty much avoiding each other, but also if it comes to a fight, they both can hold their own against each other. And pretty much, I don't see Rathian being a threat to King Cobra. And I don't see a King Cobra being a threat either. It's very interesting because I do think these two would definitely avoid each other, but if push comes to shove, I could definitely see King Cobra winning out more often than not. Next off, we have Espinas. Now, believe it or not, this may sound crazy. I know. The Elder Dragon fighting, Elder Dragon level monster is on the least threatening part of the list, right? And this is because Espinases are chill. They don't bother other monsters. Other monsters bother them. They'll bully a monster off their kill, sure, but they're not going to flat out go ahead and chase them down and engage with them unless the monster really does try to attack them. Plus, who's going to really want to attack a Elder Dragon level monster that's literally able to be covered, head to toe, literally, or head to tail, if you will, with poisonous barbs? I ain't fighting that. Y'all fighting that? No? Exactly. That's what I thought. Espinas is just likely going to chill. The only way I can see these two fighting is if it comes to a territorial dispute. And if it does come to that, I could see that, or not territorial, prey dispute. Now, the only way I could actually see that going is if King Cobra is able to do a Nargacuja, puts up a decent fight, and simply retreats. So, yeah, kind of just like that. Next up, we have Zinogre. Now, Zinogre, again, could definitely be seen as a nomadic predator, and again, could easily venture into King Cobra's territory, which will definitely create a dispute. However, I do see these two having a very interesting turf war, if you will, where Zinogre tries to physically manhandle King Cobra, but King Cobra is able to wrap around it, bite its neck, and even topple it, only for Zinogre to unleash its I guess you could say it's the full totality of its electric blast as mainly a shockwave to get King Cobra off of it, only for King Cobra to like web it and then just kind of sink its fangs into it later. So again, these two would definitely have territorial disputes. Prey disputes are very, I wouldn't say pretty common, but again, it is possible that Zinogre would definitely get into a fight over any of the prey items I listed earlier. The Conga and maybe the Aptonoth, considering the sheer fact that its favorite prey is Garju, so it may not be like, I ain't trying to really fight all that for all that. It's not even my favorite thing, but again, still capable of fighting. Next off, we have Nargacuja. Now, this one is easily going to be a prey dispute between the two, because again, Congalala. Yeah, I'm sorry, big guy. You seem to just taste delicious to all these other monsters despite your disgusting behavior. But it's very possible that Congalala may provide a lot of the nutritions that monsters need. They may actually have something in their systems that a lot of monsters just seem to find good. And they're probably one of the most healthiest creatures out there as well. Now, again, I'm not saying, oh, yeah, we could definitely eat a Congalala. But at the end of the day, Nargacuja and King Cobra are fighting over Congalala easily. But now we have Aborogu. Now, Aborogu is a member of the Devil Joe family, and believe it or not, it's one of its most successful members. So if Devil Joe goes extinct, this guy would easily be able to take over. Now, Aborogu is pretty much Devil Joe mixed with Glavenus, but with the pack hunting behavior of drones. I know that just sounds terrifying altogether now, doesn't it? Now, just because it does that does not mean it's overly, I'm lying. It's definitely terrifying. This thing literally pack hunts, has fire manipulation, and can literally heat its tail like Glavenus. Yeah, one-on-one, I could definitely see King Cobra winning against one. However, a pack of these guys, like 2 or 3, I think the max you can find together is like 3 when they're like pack hunting. So Yeah, it's best that King Cobra definitely backs away from whatever kill it has. So overall, believe it or not, I definitely have to say King Cobra does survive and does make it to, I would probably say, a decent part of the food chain, only being supplanted by a pack of Abirogu. So believe it or not, its score is going to be 9 out of 10, and now we're going to move on to the next mutant. Alright, next monster we got is one of my favorites as well here. I think they're all my favorites at this point, but Godzilla series gave us some wonderful monsters. And this is the Cryptocledius, which, believe it or not, is a plesiosaur. Yeah, I know, absolutely crazy. This thing is a mutated plesiosaur from the Tachyon aliens. Now, we are going to be using two of them in this one, that being the pair that we saw in the original. Now, I'm not sure what genders they were, but I'm going to say it's male and female, so that we can actually get a kind of a speculative evolutionary or speculative, population growth for this species in general. Now, believe it or not, they actually are amphibious, meaning they can come onto land, and they're actually able to produce a sonic roar capable of harming their opponents, and can use it both on land, albeit it's much weaker. However, they can also use it underwater as well. Now, we are going to be putting these guys into the Scarlet Forest, as I feel like it is a very great environment for them to actually use. The Scarlet Forest is literally lined with not only lush forms of life, but it kind of suits any Leviathan-based creature that's coming into the region. I mean, this is why Mizutsune and Legiocris are basically in this region. And then there's even a deep water region where both of them or all three of these Leviathans could easily reside, with different ecosystem as well, possibly going to be added to the game, pretty much expanding upon the, Leviathan lineage. And then there is an underwater area where they all exist, when they all, kind of use to travel and get around here. So basically, these guys are, yeah, I don't think it's pretty hard to say that these guys all have an underwater ecosystem likely going on here. But now let's talk about the prey. The Cryptocledius could easily prey upon the first one, that being the Dolitons, which are basically the main biggest herbivores in that region. Then there's also the, what's it called? The Pyragil. Yeah, the Pyrrhikil. Then there's also the Harpios, which are basically these like swordfish-nosed birds that are capable of like hunting down fish and stuff. Cryptocledius could likely just snatch one up if it like comes too close to the water to like eat fish. So it could easily take advantage of that, like absolutely no problem. There are also the likes of the Gyjos, or the Gyjos as well, or these saw-nosed crocodiles that are capable of taking down the Dolphin, or the Daltons. I'm just going to call them that for just right now. Now, then we have Congalala. Obviously, this guy was going to be on the list. Unfortunately, he is the biggest herbivore in this region, or the biggest prey item in this region, meaning that everything's gonna get a piece of him. Everything's gonna pretty much prey upon him as well, and Cryptocledius would be no exception. Getting a Congalala during one of the wet seasons or when it rains, and maybe any conga that's strayed too close to the more water-like areas or the deep water areas where it could just get snatched up and dragged in. As I can see Cryptocledius' hunting method being like that of a crocodile, except with obviously a plesiosaur twist to it. Now the next one I have is Deshagama, which may actually surprise some of y'all, but Deshagama is not even a apex. It's not. It can take the role of an apex if an apex is not around, but it's not in that category at all. The Alpha Deshagama are literally meant to fight against the likes of Raydao, but we know Raydao is capable of just like bullying it entirely. So believe it or not, and the fact that they also fall victim to Uthduna, yeah, they're also being eaten here. And then there's also Yin Kuku. Now, a little explanation on why Yin Kuku is meant to be a bit more difficult. This is because they do fall victim to a large majority of the predators that are from the old world. So Yin Kuku being actually more aggressive is a defense mechanism against predators that can likely harm its young, and the fact that they are also a victim of brood parasitism. So them living in groups and having a lot more, I guess you could say, members now in these colonial settings actually serves as a defense mechanism for, against young Garuga and anything that would brood parasitize them. So believe it or not, yeah, young Kuku does need to be aggressive, and it is a prey item. As well as Lalabarina, which again, I can definitely see it using its sonic roar to paralyze or disable Oliverina and allow it to just snatch it up entirely. So believe it or not, like I said earlier, it's definitely going to be using the crocodile hunting method, or if it waits till the rain season, it could definitely just move around, function in the forest, and just honestly, it would be at home. Like, there's no ifs and buts about it. But as for the competition, I don't think it should be surprised that Cryptocledius is beefing or might be beefing with the likes of whatchamacallit, the Leviathans, like Uthaduna, Mizutsune, and Legiacris are all going to be competitors here. And in all honesty, the only way I could actually see the likes of whatchamacallit, the trying to think, the Shaguma actually being competition is against younger Cryptocledius. Like, obviously, these two are likely going to reproduce and have their own offspring. But again, it still just kind of serves as a testament how it's going to be. The rafts as well would also be competition. But again, they would more than likely stay away during the rain seasons, as to not really risk a fight with any of the Leviathans at all. And in all honesty, I find this interesting that this may be the most Leviathan-filled forest. Yeah, I'm actually going to say that, because back in Monster Hunter Rise, we only had Almudron and Mizutsune coexisting in the same forest. It was just those two Leviathans. But this one has Mizutsune, Legiacris, and Uthaduna, all, Leviathans. And believe it or not, Legiacris may actually prove to be the biggest challenge, especially when it comes to the underwater territory. It's big enough to where it can definitely challenge these much more size-reduced Cryptoclediuses, and as much of a threat as, well, they are. But again, 2 against 1, it's not going to fare well, and Legiacris will likely just back off. And Uthaduna as well, being the apex, will likely have to face the same thing. Now, Arkveld, believe it or not, isn't competition. I don't even see it as a real threat to the Cryptocledius. The reason why is because the Cryptocledius has no type of energy to really give off. And it doesn't, it's not just going to feed on a creature that just doesn't have, the energy requirements. Plus, again, Cryptocledius is strong enough to snatch up and drag away an Arkveld if it wanted to. I mean, this thing is contesting against Zilla Jr. in physical strength under the water, where he's at his strongest. So believe it or not, definitely got to give it an 8 out of 10, but this is because of the likes of Uthaduna and Legiacris being such tough threats altogether. But again, it should be able to overcome them. Alright, so continuing, we got C. Rex, Crustaceanus Rex himself, an amphibious yet very interesting crustacean when it comes to its powers and capabilities. Now, in terms of its physical strength, it's actually pretty strong, even being able to balance itself on one leg while swinging the other one at its opponent. And keep in mind, he also secretes this black tar liquid, right, that allows him to not only blind his opponent, but encase them in a nutrient draining secretion, which allows him to feed on, well, whatever's, the nutrition that the tar pretty much just absorbed. And, well, he's a very adept swimmer. Now, believe it or not, I'm going to put him in the Wildspire Waste. Now, you might say legendary. Why? He's an amphibian. And, okay, so is Tetsu-Cobra. So is Zamtrios. Yet, they live in regions an amphibian really wouldn't be able to live, right? I mean, Tiger Stripe Zamtrios can be far away from water sources and still be fine. So, with that being said, yeah, he'll be in the Wildspire Waste, but he'll also be mainly inhabiting the more oasis-like area where water simply, has a flowing and stuff like that. So, he'll mainly be in those areas. And believe it or not, even with his reduced size, I think he is going to be fine. Now, again, he could venture into the more outskirt areas of the Oasis part, but I don't think he'll do that unless he actually has to go for a particular season, and I'll explain that in a little bit. Now, as for prey items, we definitely have the likes of the Ketz-Ko-Tal, obviously going to be a very nutritious meal, and the funny part is, C-Rex can actually have multiple, and I mean multiple meals. And I actually think he's probably going to go the Nerscylla path, where they actually do store a lot of their kills in their cave and just go on to eat them, and if not, in Nerscylla's case, skin them later for their hide. Now, in terms of how much prey items he could definitely use, considering the fact that he is going to be a big, still, a ridiculously big creature, his nutrition value may actually go, well, be the same, except it might be a little higher, because in the fact we just kind of reduce the size of the kaiju and not really their appetite. So definitely Apsaros, Kelby would definitely be on the menu. However, like every other monster, they do prey upon other larger monsters. This would include Kuliaku and even the likes of Baroth. Now, Kuliaku is kind of obvious. He's a prey item for just about any creature at this point. And then we have, well, Baroth. Baroth is actually going to be interesting because these guys could definitely get into turf wars over like mud holes or water sprouts and stuff like that. And then the fact that it's very possible C-Rex could just use his tendrils to crush the armor off of him, because I mean this dude has literally constrict buildings, and then just utilize his tar or pretty much just blunt force to just beat the armor off of him, and then utilize him for honestly a nutritious meal later. Pookie Pookie, or as we all know, Mushroom Diddy himself, is definitely on the menu, and it may take some time in probably venturing into the forest area, but there's still water there nevertheless. Then we also have Nightshade Cosby over here, where yes, this is mainly a nighttime creature, but if C-Rex is out hunting at night, then yes, I do think Nightshade Paloma would definitely be a worthwhile meal. And last but certainly not least, we definitely have Geratodus, which I think is honestly, I think I said this about any creature I put in the Wildspire waste. Geratodus is like ideal prey. It's big, it's lumbering, and it's limited. Like, it's going to be a very great prey item for a lot of animals here. The reason why it's not even preyed upon as much is because it just picks deep water areas that, well, are perfect for ambushes. And, well, C-Rex is likely going to be a deep water ambushing predator. So that kind of just, you know, speaks for itself. Now, Diablos is an interesting one. I'm not saying he would go out of its way to prey on full, healthy Diabloses, but during mating seasons, Diabloses are very competitional and will outright kill each other for the right to mate with obviously a black Diablos or a female Diablos, if you will, right? So, Diabloses are honestly probably their own mortality rate more often than something like Devil Joe or Glavenus, or even a Anjanath, if you will. And believe it or not, I could actually see this being the case for C-Rex. Now, while he is strong enough to definitely kill a Diablos, I could actually see him being smart enough to understand, like, okay, it's mating season, so I guess I could just wait and then scavenge off any options I get. Because again, who wouldn't want to just take an easy meal after a while, you know? Next off, we have competition. And we're going to start off with, obviously, Tigrex, or basically, you know what? Let's just go through this. We got Tigrex, Glavenus, Pink Rathian, and Basil Bomber. And so, believe it or not, each of these guys provide some sort of competition. Tigrex and Glavenus would definitely visit the Oasis era if they need to prey upon Apsaros, meaning that they'll just be kind of impeding on the territory of C-Rex, and that means that they'll probably be fighting for food sources more often than territory. Pink Rathians, in all honesty, Pink Rathians are not going to fight for territory, so again, this is going to be another cave dispute, or, you know, another, territory, prey dispute, excuse me. Bezogoose. Dude's gonna bomb him either way, so yeah, he's gonna have to fight Bezogoose, and if Bezogoose is not careful, it could wind up a meal itself. Believe it or not, most of these monsters, or most of the competition, really isn't as bad as some of the other creatures here. You see, they don't have to share territory. They honestly don't share territory at all unless they pretty much impede on it, which is really just a food interaction. So believe it or not, C-Rex has probably one of the most comfortable positions on this list, and I would likely have to give it a solid 10 out of 10, as it likely could dominate. And last but certainly never the least, my baby girl, Ketz-Ko-Tal. It's a shame she only got one episode. I feel like she should have been back in Monster Wars and definitely been on Monster Island, because I feel like she definitely deserved a whole lot more going for her. But Ketz-Ko-Tal, believe it or not, is pretty simple and pretty straightforward with this one. You see, Ketz-Ko-Tal has a uranium, or at least a fire-like beam breath that she can even use in sort of like a bullet-like fashion. So for this one, we'll be saying it's her and her 3 offspring, meaning she will have to actually protect and raise them until they are, well, fully grown, or however long Mutation would have raised their kids. So believe it or not, I'm going to put her in one of the more devastating environments, or one of the more unpredictable ones, that being the Gorge. Now, the Gorge has a series of networking, or, you know, interlocking caves and stuff, so it's all a network system, right? all these deserts, there's water, there's streams, there's plenty of food to go around. And in all honesty, she should be fine here. In my opinion, she should definitely be fine. But her children are the ones that are going to be likely at risk. So it would be counting the fact that we're going to be doing threats based off threats to her children. Excuse me. So as for her prey items, obviously Apsaros is here. There's also Moswine, Hornitor, and Remobra. So basically, all that good stuff is here. Easily capable of feeding her children for a good amount of time, especially Moswine, considering there are some bigger ones around. Now, obviously the most plentiful prey, but also the one that draws more competition, is Apsaros, with Apsaros actually being, well, you know, kind of just a smorgasbord of meat entirely. However, there are some other creatures. These fang beasts known as Lolo and Ray Goroth, the Goroth duos. Now, again, they're not weak by any means, but they would definitely be a suitable meal for Ketz-Ko-Tal. The fact that they are a tag team, basically the only way I can see Ketz-Ko-Tal pretty much getting one lacking is if she catches one by itself while the other one is away, which is a possibility, as you can separate these two for a decent amount of time. It's very possible she may just like dive bomb one and then utilize her, you know, fire breath to kind of just separate the two and then snatch one up, kill it, and just run off with it. And considering the fact that her skin, or her feathers and skin as well, also act as camouflage, she could easily get the drop on one and take one away. So in all honesty, she should be good. Now, another one may surprise you is Yangaruga. Yeah, I do think Yangaruga would definitely be a prey item. Now, again, this is a formidable creature, nevertheless. But against someone like Ketz-Ko-Tal, where it can easily camouflage, ambush, and even then, Yangarugas are more or less crazy, which makes them an absolute annoyance to, you know, deal with. But Yangaruga could also try to parasitize and raise an egg alongside her children, and Ketz-Ko-Tal could easily catch that, meaning that Yangaruga could put itself in danger by simply doing something like that. And in all honesty, I think it is possible. I mean, the level of threats here are just kind of all over the place. You have things like the Dirugara, Bariki Russo, and we're really going to just talk about the ones that'll basically be a threat to her children entirely. Now, the first one I have is the Rajang of the Skies. He has his own video pretty much coming out pretty soon, and that will be Bariki Russo. Now, Bariki Russo is one of the most traumatizing monsters of all time. And again, this thing was basically Rajang with wings. It's just absolutely terrifying. It's Black Air Force energy all over. And the only way you're beating this is if you have his weakness, which is why it'll only lose to a Dirugara. Now, another one is definitely Paria, but I do think her children could likely camouflage and get away from this creature more often than, you know, not. I don't see a reason why, you know, it would be that much of a threat to her in general, but definitely her children. You see, I think Ketz-Ko-Tal actually does do a lot well with a lot of these predators, but again, I do think Paria is definitely one of the more sneakier ones because its coloring does allow it to essentially blend in with the environment and just make it difficult all around across the board. Next one is Torticles. Now, this one here, definitely getting his own video pretty soon, especially with all the Wave 8 content I'm producing. Yeah, it's getting its just desserts, it's getting its just due. So, believe it or not, Torticles is basically a flying wyvern with the ability of lightning, which again can be detrimental, but again, it can also easily be spotted by the likes of of Ketz-Ko-Tal here. So basically, it's safe, but also not safe at the same time. So in all honesty, I think Ketz-Ko-Tal does pretty well here, in my opinion. I mean, it can't really. There's no possible way for it to lose, in my opinion. I mean, there's no possible way for it to even have its children eaten. The children can easily use the the more grained cave systems to actually hide from the predators and even get away. And then this allows mom enough time to come back and easily save her children, or she might already be there in the cave sleeping so her children can just come to her. In all honesty, I think Ketz-Ko-Tal might be the one that does the best out of this group, just the same as C-Rex does, as she easily has the coloration to blend in and has the capability
of being able to separate even much larger competition from their prey sources, or at least making them into prey. So believe it or not, definitely going to give her out of 10 out of 10, and I think she raises her children all the way to adulthood. But hey, that's going to be all today, you guys. Please comment down below, like and subscribe and share with your friends. And remember, I do have a Nessie and Zilla Jr. video out for this.